Greg's heart almost stopped. He stood inside the quiet hallway of Blue Palms Hotel, wearing a black face cap pulled low to hide half of his face. In front of room 209 stood the woman he loved. At first, he thought his eyes was playing pranks on him. Welcome to our channel. Today's story is about betrayal, romance, and heartbreak. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. The air smelled like perfume and fresh towels. Soft music played from the speakers in the walls, but Greg heard none of that. Not when he saw what was right in front of him. Just a few steps away, in front of room 209, stood the woman he loved. Jewel. His girlfriend. The woman he planned to propose to in 2 days. The woman he believed was faithful. She was laughing lightly, wearing nothing but a white hotel robe, tied loosely at her waist. Her smooth brown skin glowed under the hallway lights. Her long legs peeked out from the slit of the robe. She looked excited, far too excited. And standing with her was another man, a tall, muscular guy wearing only a white singlet and shorts. His name was Derek. Greg had never seen him before today, but the sight of the man's arm wrapped around Jewel's waist burned into Greg's chest like fire. Before Greg could blink, Jewel pulled Derek closer and kissed him, deep, hungry, like she had been waiting all day for it. Greg froze, his throat tightened, his chest felt like someone had driven a stone into it. His hands shook inside his pockets. They didn't even notice him. They didn't hear his footsteps. They didn't feel his presence. Jewel giggled and whispered, "Baby, let's go inside. I can't wait anymore." Derek smirked and opened the room door. Greg stepped back quickly, pressing himself against the wall so they wouldn't notice him. His breathing grew fast. His heart raced like a frightened bird. He had come here to confirm a rumor. But what he saw was worse than any rumor. Jewel. The woman he gave money to. The woman he trusted. The woman he wanted to build a life with. Was kissing another man right in front of their hotel room. And she was happy. She was free. She was in love, just not with him. Greg felt something inside him crack. His knees almost gave way. Then Derek laughed loudly and said, "After we finish this, we will talk about the plan again. Greg is still sending you money, right?" Greg's eyes widened. Jewel whispered back quickly, "Yes, he still believes me. Just relax. Soon, we will get everything we want." Greg's hands curled into fists, and just when Greg thought he had heard enough, Jewel added the final knife to his chest. "Trust me, Derek. Greg is only a ladder. After we use him, we'll leave him with nothing." Greg's world tilted. Everything around him, the carpet, the lights, the air, felt like it was spinning. Jewel kissed Derek again before they walked into the room and shut the door. Greg stood alone in the hallway. His face cap hid his eyes, but tears still fell. His girlfriend, his lover, his future bride, was a scammer. And the man she was with was her true boyfriend. Greg wanted to scream. He wanted to break something. He wanted to run. But instead, he did the thing Jewel never expected. He turned slowly and whispered to himself, "I will not cry. I will not shout. I will not act foolish. I will find the truth. And when I am done, you will regret this." Greg walked out of the hallway with quiet steps, but his heart felt like 1,000 knives had pierced it, and he had no idea. What he was about to discover next would be far worse than the cheating. 2 hours earlier, Greg's day had been perfect. He woke up early, jumped out of bed, and looked at the small red box on his table. Inside the box was a diamond ring, simple but beautiful. He bought it because today he had planned something special. He was going to meet Jewel tonight, take her to her favorite restaurant, hold her hand, look into her eyes, and ask the question he had been scared to ask for months. "Will you marry me?" Greg was only 28, but he had built his first company at 25 and was already a billionaire. Even with all his money, he wanted something simple: love. Real love. A partner, a future, and Jewel. Beautiful Jewel with tall height, slim waist, smooth brown skin, long wavy hair, and a smile that could melt ice. He thought she was the one, but at exactly 6:42 p.m., Greg's phone buzzed. It was a message from his closest friend, Tunde. "Bro, I just saw Jewel entering Blue Palms Hotel with another guy." They looked close. Greg read the message twice. He blinked. He shook his head. "No, Jewel would never," he whispered. But doubt crawled up his spine like cold fingers. To be sure, Greg grabbed his face cap, wore it low, grabbed his car keys, and rushed out of the house. He drove fast, too fast, his chest tight, his mind in chaos. When he reached the hotel, he walked straight inside, hiding half his face with the cap. He never expected to see anything strange. He just wanted peace of mind. But now, after what he saw, peace was gone. Completely gone. Greg didn't go home immediately. He waited. He followed. He watched. He began to notice things he never saw before. Strange transactions on his phone, money missing from his account, fake stories Jewel told him. Strange messages on her phone the few times he had held it. It all connected now. Jewel was not just cheating. She was using him. She was scamming him. She was working with someone, Derek, to collect money, gifts, and favors, and Greg realized something terrifying. This was not the first day. This was just the day he caught her. His heart shook with anger, but Greg didn't scream. He didn't expose her. He made a quiet plan, a dangerous plan. A plan that would make Jewel regret every lie she ever told. At 11:03 p.m., Greg parked quietly outside Jewel's apartment. He had discovered something shocking while investigating her bank alerts. Jewel had taken more than N50 million from him in small pieces. Slowly, sneakily, over months. Greg's vision darkened with pain and anger. But instead of knocking on her door, he smiled, a cold smile. One Jewel had never seen before. He whispered, "Jewel, you think you are smart, but tomorrow I begin my own game." Greg pulled out his phone. He dialed a private investigator. And then, just as he stepped back into his car, Jewel's apartment door opened, and someone unexpected stepped out. A figure Greg never imagined seeing there, a face that shocked him to his core. The last person he ever thought would be involved in the betrayal. Greg froze, his breath stopped, everything inside him screamed, and that was when the real story began. Greg could not move. His hand froze on the car door, his breath caught in his chest. Because standing at the doorway of Jewel's apartment was Tunde, yes, Tunde, his closest friend, his childhood brother, the same person who had warned him earlier, "Bro, I saw Jewel with another man." Now he was here, coming out of her house, at almost midnight. Greg blinked twice, hoping he was wrong, hoping his eyes were lying, hoping this was not real. But it was real. Tunde looked relaxed, wearing casual shorts and slippers. He held a nylon bag with takeaway food. He looked like someone who had been inside for a long time. And he looked comfortable. Too comfortable. Greg's stomach tightened. He leaned lower inside the car, hiding his face in the shadows. Tunde did not see him. Tunde locked Jewel's door gently, humming a song. The same song he always hummed when he was hiding something. Greg's heart pounded. Why was Tunde inside Jewel's apartment? Why this late? Why alone? Why comfortable? Greg wanted to lie to himself. Maybe he just came to talk to her. Maybe he came to warn her about Derek. Maybe he came to... But then Greg's phone vibrated. A message. From Tunde. "Bro, I'm home already. I'll update you tomorrow." Greg's mouth fell open. Tunde had just lied. He was not home. He was right in front of him, walking away from Jewel's door. Greg felt the world twist again, just like it did inside the hotel. First Jewel, now Tunde. Why are you here? Greg whispered to himself, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles went white. He didn't cry, he didn't shout, he didn't confront. He just watched quietly as Tunde walked down the corridor, whistling softly like nothing was wrong. Greg waited until he disappeared. Then he whispered, "This is bigger than cheating. Something is wrong, something deep." Greg's mind drifted back to when he first met Jewel. It was at his company's charity event. Jewel had walked in wearing a long green gown that shimmered in the lights. Her brown skin glowed. Her smile was bright. Every man turned to look at her, but she walked straight to Greg and said, "Hi, I'm Jewel. I follow your work. You inspire me." Greg had blushed, something he never did. They talked. She laughed at his jokes. She touched his shoulder softly. She looked shy, sweet, innocent. Or so he thought. Now sitting in his car outside her house, that memory hurt. Deeply. Greg pressed his forehead against the steering wheel. He didn't know which pain was worse. Seeing Jewel kiss another man or discovering Tunde was somehow involved. He felt betrayed from two sides, but he still did not move. He still did not speak. Because Greg was not ready to explode. Not yet. He wanted to know the whole truth. Every detail. Every secret. Only then would he strike. The next morning, Greg woke up early. No breakfast, no smile. Just a burning fire in his chest. He dressed simply. Black shirt, black jeans, the same face cap from last night. He drove straight to meet the private investigator he had called. The investigator, Mr. Salami, was an older man with sharp eyes. "You said it's urgent," Mr. Salami said. "It is," Greg replied. "I want you to follow Jewel, her real boyfriend, Derek, and my friend, Tunde." Mr. Salami raised an eyebrow. "Your friend, too?" Greg nodded slowly. His voice was cold. "He is lying to me about something." The investigator smiled in a way that showed he had seen many secrets in his life. "I will find everything," he promised. After 3 days, Mr. Salami called Greg. "Sir," he said, "you will not like what I found." Greg's stomach dropped. "Tell me." "There is a group chat," the investigator said, "with Jewel, Derek, and Tunde." Greg's heart stopped. "And they talk about you." Greg closed his eyes tightly. "What do they say?" "They discuss money, how much they can take from you, how to make you feel guilty, how to make you love Jewel more, how to keep you blind." Greg felt heat rise to his face. His heart almost burst. "And the worst part," the investigator added, "is that Tunde is the one giving them ideas." Greg swallowed hard. His closest friend, the one he trusted the most, was helping Jewel scam him. Greg sat down slowly on a bench beside his car. His legs felt weak. He remembered their childhood, how Tunde shared biscuits with him, how they played football together, how they survived tough days. And now this same boy had grown into a man who betrayed him for money. Greg whispered, "Why? Why would he do this?" The investigator continued, "Tunde also receives a cut. Jewel sends him part of the money you give her." Greg's heart twisted painfully. He could have forgiven Jewel, maybe. But Tunde, no. This was deeper, stronger, more painful. But Greg did not lose control. Instead, he whispered to himself, "Good, now I know everything. Now I can begin." Greg spent the next 2 weeks quietly gathering evidence, bank statements, text messages, secret recordings, chat screenshots, hotel footage from Blue Palms. He never confronted Jewel. He never confronted Tunde. He pretended everything was normal. He sent Jewel money. He visited her. He smiled. He talked sweetly. He even bought her gifts. Jewel had no idea that the man standing in front of her already knew her deepest secrets. And one night, when Jewel rested her head on his shoulder, Greg looked at the ceiling and whispered silently, "Soon." On the 14th night of Greg's plan, Jewel sat on his couch, smiling. "Baby," she said sweetly, "can you help me with just 5 million? I want to start a small business." Greg smiled back. "Of course, my love," he replied gently. "I will give you everything you need." Jewel's eyes sparkled with excitement. She had no idea he was lying. Greg stood up and walked to his drawer, not to get money, but to get something else, a secret envelope. He walked back to Jewel slowly, and then he placed the envelope on the table in front of her. "What's this?" Jewel asked, confused. Greg smiled, a cold smile filled with hidden fire. "Open it." Jewel opened it. She looked inside. Her eyes widened. Her lips shook. Her hands began to tremble violently, because inside the envelope were hotel pictures, screenshots of her chats, bank records, voice recordings, videos, evidence of everything. Jewel gasped. Her mouth fell open. She looked up at Greg in fear. "Greg, please, I can explain." Greg stepped back. His eyes were calm, too calm. "Jewel," he said softly, "I know everything." Jewel's heart pounded violently, and just before she could speak, the door burst open. Someone walked in. Someone who was not supposed to be there. Someone whose presence would change everything again. Jewel screamed. Her hands flew to her chest. The envelope with her secrets fell from her lap to the floor. Greg slowly turned around, and standing right there at the door, breathing hard, eyes wide, face full of fear, was Tunde. Greg didn't move. Jewel didn't blink. The room went dead silent. Tunde looked like someone who had been running. Sweat covered his forehead. His slippers were half worn. His phone was still in his hand. But the shock on his face showed clearly that he hadn't expected to walk into this. Especially not into a room where Jewel sat trembling, with a whole envelope of evidence opened before her. Tunde's eyes traveled from the envelope to Jewel, then to Greg. And Greg just stared back at him quietly, not angry, not shouting, not surprised, just cold, very, very cold. "Tunde," Greg said softly. His voice carried quiet power, perfect timing. Tunde swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "Bro, I can explain." "You should," Greg replied, "because this is the moment I have been waiting for." Tunde took a step back, but the door clicked behind him. Greg had locked it earlier. Tunde was trapped. Jewel was trapped. And Greg finally had both of them exactly where he wanted. Jewel breaks first. "Greg, please, please," Jewel cried suddenly. Her knees hit the floor as she grabbed his trousers. Tears poured down her cheeks. Her robe slipped off one shoulder, but she didn't even notice. "Please let me explain. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was confused. I didn't know what I was doing." Greg looked down at her. "Jewel," he said calmly, "don't lie again. You have lied enough." Jewel shook her head desperately. "I swear, Greg, I was going to stop. I was going to return your money. I was going to—" "Return what?" Greg interrupted. "The N50 million you finished, the money you sent to Derek, the money you sent to Tunde." Jewel froze. Greg saw the truth flash across her eyes. She had not expected him to know everything. The tears in her eyes doubled. She began to shake violently. "Greg, please, don't do this. I love you. I truly love you." Greg's laugh was bitter, sharp, painful. "You love me?" he asked quietly. "And yet you kissed another man behind my back, used my money, plotted with my friend." Jewel cried harder. Her hands were cold on his leg. "Greg, I swear, I didn't mean—" "Jewel, Greg said softly. Stand up. I have heard enough. Greg, please listen. Tunde suddenly stepped forward. His voice was shaky. Everything Jewel did, I was trying to help you, I swear. Greg slowly turned his head. Help me? He raised one eyebrow calmly. How? Tunde licked his dry lips. I wanted to test her, he stuttered. I wanted to see if she really loved you. I only joined the chat so I could watch her movements. Greg cut him off. Then why, Greg asked gently, did she send you money? Tunde froze. His mouth hung open. He had no answer. Why, Greg continued, did you lie to me last night? Why did you leave her apartment and tell me you were at home already? Tunde's voice cracked. Greg, bro, please. Greg walked slowly toward him. Why did you help her? He asked. Why did you push me to give her more money? Why did you tell her the best lies to use? Why did you send her screenshots of my business trips? Why did you teach her how to manipulate me? Tunde took a step back, then another. His back hit the wall, but Greg kept coming, step by step. Tunde finally whispered, voice shaking like a leaf. I needed money, Greg. I was broke. My rent, my mum's hospital bills. I didn't know what to do. She said she could share with me if I helped her. So you chose money, Greg said quietly, over loyalty. Tunde's eyes filled with tears. Bro, please, forgive me. But Greg turned away. He didn't want to hear another lie. Greg walked back to the table. He picked up his phone and pressed play. A voice recording filled the room. Jewel's voice, clear, laughing, mocking. Greg is such a fool. Imagine, he thinks I love him. By the time we finish with him, Derek and I will build the life we want. Jewel gasped in horror. Her knees buckled. She fell again. No, Greg, please, that was before. I don't feel that way anymore. Another voice played. Tunde this time. Just tell him you need money for business. Pretend you want to support him. He will give you anything. Tunde shut his eyes tightly as he heard his own betrayal replayed. The recording ended. The room was silent. Jewel sobbed. Tunde trembled. Greg simply stood there, calm like ice. Then he said the words that ended everything. From this moment, both of you are nothing to me. Greg, please. Jewel crawled to him again. She grabbed his leg desperately. Her tears stained his jeans. Don't leave me. I swear I will change. I swear I will be good. Please don't do this to me. Greg gently removed her hands from his clothes. Jewel, he said, the love I had for you died the moment I saw you kiss another man. Jewel screamed. She clutched her chest, her face twisted with pain. Greg, please, I have nothing without you. Greg nodded. I know. Jewel's heart dropped. He continued, and that is exactly what you will leave with. Jewel froze. Her breath caught. What? What do you mean? Greg pointed to the door. You will leave my house tonight, with nothing. Not a naira, not a gift. Not even a phone. Jewel shook her head wildly. No, 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 please, Greg. She crawled toward him again, grabbing his feet. Please don't do this to me, please. Greg stepped back. Goodbye, Jewel. Jewel screamed again, a loud, painful cry that shook the whole room. But Greg didn't look back, not even once. Greg turned to his old friend. Tunde, he said slowly, I trusted you. I loved you like a brother. Tunde sobbed. Greg, please, I messed up. I regret everything. I swear on my life. Please don't cut me off. Greg shook his head. Tunde, I will never speak to you again. Tunde fell to his knees instantly. Bro, please, please don't do this. Greg, I will die. I will. Greg didn't wait. He unlocked the door and pointed at it. Both of you, out, Jewel screamed. Tunde begged. But Greg did not bend. They left crying, shaking and broken. The door shut behind them. 2 weeks later, Greg sat at a business meeting in a luxury restaurant. He was still healing, still quiet, still hurt, but he hid it well. Across the table sat a young woman, confident, intelligent, beautiful. Anita. She smiled at him warmly, not like Jules' fake smile, not like someone who wanted anything from him, just a real, gentle smile. "Greg," she said in her soft voice, "I've heard so much about you, and I'm glad I finally get to meet you." Greg looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, his heart felt calm. But he had no idea. Anita was about to change his life in a way he never expected. For the first time in a long time, Greg's mind felt calm, not healed, not happy, just calm. The betrayal from Jewel and Tunda had left a wound so deep that even the quietest nights felt heavy. But at that dinner table, looking at Anita, something inside Greg softened. Anita was different. She wasn't trying too hard. She wasn't showing off. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't like Jewel. Greg could see it in the way she sat, straight, confident, but gentle. In the way she smiled, not forced, not manipulative. And in the way she talked, simple, clear, honest. Greg hadn't felt this type of peace in months, but deep down, he was scared. What if she's like Jewel? What if she only wants my money? What if she hurts me again? Those thoughts hid behind his calm smile, and Anita noticed. Halfway through the meeting, Anita tilted her head and asked softly, "Greg, are you okay?" Greg blinked. "Yes, I'm fine," he said quickly. Anita didn't believe him. "You look like someone carrying a heavy secret," she added gently. Her words struck him, right in the chest. Greg looked away. He didn't want to talk about Jewel. He didn't want to talk about betrayal. He didn't want to look weak. But Anita's voice was too calm, too warm, too safe. "You don't have to tell me anything," she said. "But you don't have to pretend either." Greg sighed. His shoulders slowly dropped. The weight he had been holding finally loosened. And without meaning to, Greg whispered, "Someone I trusted broke me." Anita didn't speak immediately. She didn't rush him. She didn't ask for names. She didn't act like she deserved answers. She simply nodded, with eyes filled with gentle understanding. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Whatever happened, you didn't deserve it." Greg's heart tightened. Her voice was soft, like comfort wrapped in human form. And for the first time, he felt something he hadn't felt since Jewel's betrayal. Hope. Over the next few days, Greg and Anita started seeing each other more. Not officially dating yet, just talking, laughing, taking small steps. They had lunch meetings that turned into dessert, short calls that turned into long conversations, professional messages that turned into jokes. And something amazing happened. Greg started smiling again. Real smiles, not the forced ones he used after Jewel hurt him. Anita's presence felt like fresh air, soft, calm, and healing. But of course, a heart that has been broken isn't so easy to fix. And one night, Greg's fear returned. Greg had invited Anita to his office to discuss a business deal. It was late, almost past 9 p.m. Everyone had gone home except the guards. Anita sat across from him, her hair packed in a neat bun, wearing a simple white shirt tucked into black trousers. She looked elegant without trying. But Greg couldn't focus. He kept staring at the documents, yet reading nothing. Anita noticed. "Greg, talk to me," she said gently. He didn't want to, but the pain was too much to hide. Finally, he whispered, "I don't know if I can ever trust again." Anita blinked. "Why?" she asked softly. Greg's voice cracked. "Because the person I trusted with my heart played me like a game." It was the first time he said it out loud. His eyes watered, his throat tightened, his heart felt raw. Anita stood up slowly, walked around the table. and sat beside him. She didn't touch him. She didn't hug him. She didn't pretend to be his savior. She simply sat, silent but present. Greg finally let out the breath he'd been holding for weeks. "She made me feel stupid," Greg whispered. "She made me feel like I wasn't enough." Anita turned to him and said something he never expected. "No, Greg, you were never the problem. She was." Greg's eyes widened, and Anita continued, "Anyone who lies for money, anyone who tricks someone who loves them, anyone who plays with another person's heart is broken inside." Greg swallowed hard. Anita's words were soft but powerful. Then she added, "And someone like you deserves a love that doesn't hurt." That sentence hit him harder than any betrayal ever did. Greg's heart cracked open, not from pain, but from healing. Anita finally placed her hand gently on his. "You can trust again," she whispered, "and when you're ready, I'll be here." Greg looked at her. For the first time, the fear in his eyes began to fade. Weeks passed. Greg slowly opened up more. He told Anita about his childhood, about his business, about his fears, about the dreams he rarely shared with anyone. And Anita listened with interest, with respect, with warmth. She never asked for money, never acted entitled, never tried to impress him. She was real, simple, honest. And it made Greg fall for her, little by little, in the quietest ways. One evening, as they walked out of a restaurant, Greg stopped suddenly. "Anita," he said softly, "I want to ask you something." Anita smiled gently. "Yes?" Greg took a breath. "Do you want to go out with me?" "Officially?" Anita looked surprised. She blushed lightly. Her cheeks warmed. "Yes," she said. "I've been waiting for you to ask." Greg smiled, a real deep smile. For the first time since the betrayal, Greg's heart felt full again. But peace never stays quiet for long, just as Greg held Anita's hand and walked her toward his car. A black SUV parked sharply beside them. The back door opened slowly, and stepping out, dressed in a short black gown, full makeup, and fake confidence, was Jewel. Greg froze. Anita stopped walking. Jewel's eyes went straight to Greg's hand holding Anita's. Her face twisted with shock, then anger, then something darker. "Greg," Jewel said, stepping closer. Her voice was low, shaking. "We need to talk, now." Anita looked at Greg. Greg clenched his jaw, because he could see the one thing he never expected. Jewel wasn't here to apologize. She was here for something else, something dangerous. The night air froze, cars drove past, restaurant lights glowed softly. But everything around Greg suddenly went silent. Because Jewel, the woman who broke him, betrayed him, and used him, was standing right in front of him. Her black gown shimmered under the streetlight. Her makeup was perfect. Her hair flowed down her shoulders, but her eyes were filled with something wild, desperation, fear, anger, all mixed together. "Greg," she said again, stepping closer, "we need to talk. Alone." Anita's fingers tightened around Greg's hand. She stood still, calm but alert. But Jewel ignored her completely. Her eyes locked on Greg like he belonged to her, like Anita didn't exist. "Greg," Jewel whispered, her voice cracking, "please, it's important." Greg didn't blink. He didn't move. He didn't soften. "What do you want, Jewel?" he asked coldly. Jewel swallowed hard. Her lips trembled. She looked around anxiously, as if someone was watching her. But Greg had no sympathy left. Jewel stepped even closer. Her perfume filled the air, familiar but unwelcome. "You have to listen," she begged. "Everything is falling apart. I need your help." Greg raised an eyebrow sharply. "My help?" He laughed silently. "You must be joking." Jewel shook her head desperately. "No, Greg, please, you don't understand. I'm in trouble. Anita stepped forward calmly. Jewel, she said firmly, Greg doesn't owe you anything. Not anymore. Jewel finally turned to Anita, and her face twisted in pure jealousy. Who are you? She snapped. Why are you holding his hand? Greg, is this why you won't listen to me? Greg stepped in front of Anita. Don't talk to her, he said coldly. Answer my question. Why are you here? Jewel's eyes filled with tears. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Derek left me. Greg blinked. And? He asked flatly. He took everything, Jewel continued. Every single thing I gained from the plan. He said I'm useless now. Greg stared at her. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't changed. She wasn't here to fix anything. She was here because she lost her partner in crime, and she needed a new one. Not happening. Greg, Jewel whispered, stepping close enough to touch his arm. I know I messed up, but you are the only one I can run to. The only one who ever cared about me. Anita folded her arms and scoffed quietly. She had heard enough. But suddenly, Jewel's voice dropped even lower. There's more, she whispered. Something big. Something dangerous. Something I never told you. Greg's heart paused. Jewel continued, her voice trembling. Derek wasn't just my boyfriend. He was part of something else. Greg frowned. What are you talking about? Jewel looked around with fear, then leaned closer and whispered, He's not just a scammer, Greg. He works for people. People who want money and information, important information. Greg felt chills run down his spine. What kind of information? He asked slowly. Jewel swallowed. Business information. From you. Greg's chest tightened, his heartbeat pounded. What? He whispered. Jewel nodded quickly. Your business secrets, your projects, your new deals, your private files. Greg's eyes widened. He told me to get close to you, Jewel confessed, to find out everything, to take money but also information. Anita gasped softly. Greg's jaw tightened. And Tunde? Greg asked. Jewel hesitated, then nodded. He knew. Greg shut his eyes tightly, so it wasn't just a betrayal of love. It was a betrayal of business, of trust, of everything he built. Anita stepped closer protectively. Jewel, she said sharply, you didn't come here to apologize. You came here because you're scared. Jewel's eyes darted to her. Yes, I'm scared, she shouted. I'm scared because they want something from Greg. And I don't know how long before they come for him. Greg stared at her. Then why tell me now? He asked. Jewel breathed fast, her hands shaking. Because Derek disappeared. The people he works for are angry. They think I have the information, but I don't, and they're looking for me. Anita stepped in front of Greg again. This doesn't concern Greg, Anita said calmly. You should go to the police. Jewel shook her head quickly. No police. These people don't care about the police. They know how to disappear anyone. Greg, they already know your name. Greg's stomach dropped. Who are these people? He asked. Jewel's voice broke into a whisper. I can't say it out here. They might be watching. Greg felt a shiver run down his spine. Anita squeezed his hand gently. Jewel took a deep breath. Greg, please, let me come inside. Let me explain everything. Let me warn you. Greg did not move. His heart pounded. He didn't trust her. He didn't believe her fully. But the fear in her eyes wasn't fake. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Jewel reached out with a shaking hand. Greg, if you don't hear me out... She looked around again. You might be the next target. Before Greg could reply, before Anita could speak, before Jewel could say another word, a black van turned the corner. Slowly, silently, too silently. Its windows were tinted. Its headlights were off. It moved like a shadow. Jewel's eyes widened in pure terror. Oh no, she whispered. No, 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 they found me. Greg turned sharply. Anita grabbed his arm. The van stopped right beside them. Its side door slid open, but the inside was pitch black. A man's voice whispered from inside, "Jewel, get in." Jewel screamed and ran behind Greg. Greg stepped forward instinctively, shielding Anita and Jewel with his body. Anita gasped. Greg's heart pounded wildly. And then 4 dark figures stepped out of the van, slowly, quietly, confidently. Greg's breath froze. Anita held his arm tightly. Jewel trembled violently behind him, and one of the men pointed directly at Greg and said, "You, come with us." The night exploded into fear, and this story is about to take a deadly turn. Thanks for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for interesting videos.